It's my pleasure to introduce Anya. She is an outstanding 11th grade student from Marymount in New York. Today, she'll be presenting the results of her summer project, which reflect her strong passion for both humanities and the sciences. Anya has a particular interest in reading and writing, and she's applied these skills to explore an important local environment topic. So, for her project, she conducted extensive field work in a park in her hometown. And through multiple visits, she documented the park's landscape with detailed photographs, collected geological samples, studied the bluffs with a focus on conservation efforts, and her research highlights the significance of preserving these natural features and aims to raise awareness about their ecological value. Her dedication and understanding of geology of her local environment and creating a practical field guide demonstrates both initiative and scholarly curiosity. And I'm confident that her presentation today will be both informative and inspiring. Um, I hope that, and I know that she will do a fantastic job today. So I will let her take it away.
Hi, I'm Anya. I know I put that I'm in 10th grade on the slide, but that was during the summer. I guess I'm in 11th grade now. I go to Marymount School of New York, and I did a Halleck Park State Park bluff analysis, which is the state park near my school. Not near my school, near my home. Next slide, please. Thank you. So I worked with Lindsey. Lindsey has a background in both chemistry and geology, although currently she's a paint chemist for PPG. She lives in Ohio and she has a passion for both gardening and cycling. Here's a photo of her family. Next slide, please. So for my project, I conducted field work and background research about the geology of the Halleck State Park bluffs. And I was interested in working with the nearby state park, the Halleck State Park, in order to talk about the conservation of the bluffs and educate the local community on why it's so important to preserve the bluffs and ensure that their erosion is not rapidly deteriorating. Some of the topics and technologies I learned, I used a grain size folder with my samples that I collected of sand in order to learn about the sediments that were present in the bluffs, which told me about the stability of the bluffs and the different plants and animals that might be around. I also collected rocks using both a rock hammer, which was particularly fun, and collecting samples of rocks just nearby the base of the bluffs. Additionally, I created a map using images both online and images that I collected, showing the area that I chose to focus on from the Halleck State Park. And as far as how far I got, I collected samples of the mapped areas and I ended up finishing a field guide and research paper. And in the future, I think it would be interesting to find a way to share this information with others, whether it be through community outreach or through making it available on community websites. I think that this information is important for others to know as well. And I also made a map of the area that will be shown in my demo. So next slide, please. So I really enjoyed getting to be involved with my community and learning more about the area that I live in. I also really enjoyed getting the opportunity to get involved with conservation. I feel like conservation is something that I'm constantly hearing about, but I haven't had the opportunity to actually work in conservation or to actually be able to contribute and learn about why it's so important to protect our Earth. Additionally, I learned geological research techniques and I learned QGIS, which was the program I used to convert the images that I had into a map. And I also learned a lot about data organization through journaling about the different samples that I found and compiling that information into a field guide. Some issues I experienced where it was a little rainy. It's a little rainy where I live, and sometimes the weather prevented me from getting more samples or getting photos in optimal conditions. And a lot of time there was a lot of litter on the beaches as well, which was disheartening to see, and it made some sample collection a little more complicated. Next slide, please. So this is the first part of my demo. These are some photos, both of my field guide, the sand grain index here, some samples of rocks that I found, and one of the photos of the bluffs. Um, in the demo that I have, it's a video of me explaining the photos with research from my field guide to give a more well-rounded perspective of why the bluffs are important and even some interesting information that we can learn from the bluffs. So next slide, please. Here's the video.
Anya, can you, I don't know if in the video you were talking over,
I was talking. I
okay,
think
can
there's
you,
a little mic speaker in there's a little, it's muted, I think, in the corner.
yeah, would you be able to just explain now?
I could. I just made the video also, but I could explain.
Okay.
There's a little button in the corner though that could unmute it also. The geological structure. I don't think the audio was working, so I can just talk over the video, I guess. That's fine.
Oh, I'm sorry, I
So
didn't
this
have
is
it.
my demo. I'm presenting some of these different segments. So this is from Group A or Segment A, this image here. And Bluff Group A at its lowest was around 20 to 25 feet. This particular area had a large amount of vegetation with a combination of beach plums and northern bayberry plants. There were also a decent amount of American beach grass, which is pretty common for this area. And the interesting thing about the presence of these plants is that they aid in the long-term stability of the bluffs, and their roots help prevent erosion and maintain stability within this area. Additionally, the presence of these plants shows what types of sediment might be present, and it's clear that the bluffs are largely formed from sand, at least to what is visible, and the abundance of beach plum and northern bayberry shows that the sand is gravelly, well-drained, and more likely on the coarser side. I used a sand grain index here as a tool to help me figure out what kind of sand might be present in this area. And from both looking at the plants and from using this index, I determined that the sand in this area was most likely coarse sand or medium sand. Somewhere between the two was where I found the sand in this area lying. So this is another image from Bluff Group A. As you can see, in order to sustain these plants visible in this image, there must be a dense source of nutrients. In this case, it's most likely clay. The clay present in this section of the bluffs could also contribute to the gravelly texture of the sand. And this figure showcases one of the higher points of this bluff group. And there are large granite pieces, as you can see, that might have been displaced from glacier movement or have fallen from the bluffs at an earlier era. Also, as the bluffs grow taller in this group, you can begin to see thin lines or strata. And these strata are typically made up of granite, sand, quartz, or till, which is a mixture of clay, silt, and gravel. And they also prove as evidence to past glacial movement. So here I have some samples that I collected. These are both quartz. They were found near the base of the bluffs, and you can tell that they're quartz because of one's gray color and the other's tan color. They were both hard and they were non-metallic, and they also had this kind of glassy almost waxy appearance that indicated that they were most likely quartz. This is also from Bluff Group B, which was dramatically shorter than the other groups, barely over 7 feet at its highest, but interesting because it has this overhang of roots over here that shows that the physical erosion of the bluffs at this area, most likely due to its shorter stature. Additionally, in this area, we can see glacial till, which is the kind of mixed confetti-like sediment that makes up this area of the bluffs. It's dotted around with rocks, which is also evidence of glacial movement in the past. So overall, it is really important to preserve the bluffs because not only are they home to all the plants I mentioned, but they're also home to many different types of wildlife. I've seen gophers around this area in the past and many different types of birds, American gulls. And additionally, the stability of the bluffs as saved from preventing their rapid erosion also creates a safer beach area that can be enjoyed by the public, which is why I think it's important that state parks and areas like the Halleck State Park that don't get as much attention are getting more attention now, both from projects like this and from community outreach. Thank you. Thank you. Any questions?
So were the most of the bluffs created by glaciers, or were they made from like different various like events?
Kind of a combination of both. The forks themselves were formed from glacial movement, and some of the areas of the bluffs were kind of their formation was kind of affected by that. But for the most part, it's a lot of erosion from sand, wind, etc.
I also had one more question about the quartz. Is there a reason why there was so much quartz present in the bluffs? Or like, I don't really know much about geology, so like, why was that something that you found?
I think it's just a common rock in the area. It's just common to see a lot of quartz in these kinds of beaches. And I also found a lot of granite. There weren't that many, like, I guess, unique stones that I found for the most part. But I'm sure with like further research and more samples, I could find something a little less common. But I think, yeah, that's my answer.
I have a question for Anya. Really cool project and combo of like research and field work. I was wondering if there was anything when you went out into the field that either surprised you or just clicked from what you did research ahead of time and the different techniques and things like that, or did things kind of go as you expected?
I think it was really I think it was really interesting to actually be able to go out there and see like the different kinds of rocks that I had found in my research. And I think it was also surprising that I was able to identify some of them from my readings previously while I was in the field. Of course, I verified when I brought them back, but I thought that was interesting. Also, I was like decently surprised by the large amounts of pollution that were like deep into the sand, like deeper than you would expect. So I think that was also something that took me off guard.
Very cool. Great job. Thank you.
And then last question from a 4-year-old who loves to collect rocks. This is really inspiring. But how did this project like really get to you, and how can she maybe follow in your footsteps?
So I think I wasn't really expecting to work with geology, mostly because a lot of my past interests in science have been biology based. But Lindsay told me that she had a background in geology, and I was kind of intrigued by it because who doesn't like rocks? Um, and I think it was easier to actually get out there and do something than I thought it would be. I thought it would be way more complex, but it can be as easy as like just like picking up rocks on the ground that you find. And it was pretty easy to like figure out what like different sources of information. Um, National Geographic has a lot of information on like different types of rocks. There are also a lot of like on the pages that was looking through, I saw a lot of like kid-friendly areas. Like I think there are some magazines too, but
Okay.
it's like you don't even need to like start like go around whacking a rock hammer. Like it's really just as simple as like finding rocks or just looking around and seeing what's already there.
You went on a lot of hikes and you spent a lot of time outside, and that was pretty cool, I think, too. Just
Yeah,
spending time outside and hiking.
yeah, it was really nice that I got to just go around and hike and go on beach walks for my data collection. So I thought that was also like a nice part of it as well.
Very cool. Thank you.
Look at that.